Okay, so this is the fourth video for assignment 4, and I think I'm going to be able to submit it pretty soon because I'm not trying to get an exact copy of my guy. I'm just trying to suggest it in not too heavy-handed a way in a cloud that looks believable on a sky that I painted. So last steps, I might just go through and soften some of the hard edges. That's kind of a big overall theme. All right, I'm on my clone stamp layer. So those fingers look a little too hard edged. I'm going to use my soft edged brush, pick apart at them. I can then use smudge tool, kind of drag them out. What's great about the smudge, it's like dragging your finger across a pastel drawing. It will soften and smooth everything as you go, but it's easy to overuse as well. And it becomes very obvious when you create the whole outside edge with just the smudge tool. I'm looking at the lighting. I'm not in love with the toes, so I'm going to clone stamp with some darker cloud. Knock those back a little bit. Maybe even disconnect them a little bit from the larger cloud body, because you don't usually get vertical columns of cloud. See how it's kind of separated there? And I'll show you one kind of finishing technique. Because we've layered with so many layers of opacity, I might even weaken that hole in the eye just a little bit. Keep it more subtle, right? Let's make this a little bit heavier down here. A little bit darker down here. Okay, so now here's a little finishing technique you might like. Go up to your very top, everything except your creature, all right? I can turn on my overlay, that helps a little bit. That's my dodging and burning. Now I'm going to turn off my background painting layer, right? And I'm going to actually have to turn off my overlay because of the gray. So go to your next layer that's turned on, the clone stamp. We've done this before, but hold down Option and then Layer Merge Visible, so that all of your cloud textures are now on one layer, and then I can turn them all off, all the component pieces. Then I turn my sky back on, and what it can do is show you a few things. It can show you where you need to erase. It can show you where your edges just look false or too hard still. All right, so this is your cloud on gray skies. And you can start playing with the opacity of your eraser now and letting the sky show through, which is really big in clouds. And it's all on one layer now. So again, that's why you don't want to clone stamp the sky or copy too much of the sky into your reference. Because if you do this correctly, then your sky can change colors and your cloud will still look believable. And I can kind of separate out some of my cloud shapes from others, right? Just this low opacity, soft edged eraser. And I can use smudge. Here's a little finishing technique with smudge. Instead of using it for little edges, I can just use it really big and just kind of push with it. Whole sections. So this ear is going to start moving a little bit this way, just like the wind moved it. Any moment now. A lot of processing. Any moment now, that smudge tool is going to kick in. It's compelling. Let's see if it actually did anything. Yes, it did a lot, right? So we can just kind of nudge it, push it in little directions. Now the problem is because it's so many pixels, it's such a large resolution image, even though I'm just doing it to one layer. But this will give it some intentionality. All right. What I like best is actually how the arms and hands are dealt with. You see how they look very believable? And they're just barely suggesting. I think that foot's looking more believable now. I'm not so sure about the tail. Maybe I'll push that up with smudge next. And then we'll turn the sky on behind. We'll be done. I can't wait for this tool anymore. So when using tools like the smudge tool, which we only use in very limited ways, it's good to save every once in a while too, because this processing is so heavy that if you have a lot of things open, it can crash. Come on. I've only used it 3 times. Catch up with me. So if this was a Buddhist sculpture, it would have 1,000-spoked wheels on its hands and on its feet. It would have a little tuft of hair between its eyebrows. Have a bump on its head. All right, it's not doing what I need it to. So if you need to force something to change, to stop, you do command period, and that will cancel whatever action. But you can see these little smudges I did to the ears. They're helpful. They kind of push it around. And then I can accompany those with more focused erasing. Okay. Now let's turn on the creature in the corner. Let's turn on the background sky. And then as a last kind of completion of it, I can just erase away with this 15% opacity, bite away at the edges just a little bit more, using my tablet, pressure sensitive, letting the sky come through. I see it in my navigator there. It looks pretty believable. Yeah, the tail needs some work. Let's give it a little bit more texture. But there's clearly nothing in this cloud that any photographer would say, hey, you used my cloud. Right? It's definitely our own creation. And it's kind of like digital painting. Even though the only painting we did, the only pixels we made that were our own, was the background. But the way it's like digital painting, oh, that's why that's there. Is that we're really just trying to build a form of our own imagining, not trying to present anybody else's pixels. Let's see what I want to do. There we go. Burn that down a little. Okay. Maybe some final clone stamping just to soften some edges. And then we're going to submit it. Okay, so how do we submit this? Oh, by the way, if you've done that, you can make a duplicate of your background sky, and then you can play with its color balance. Because maybe your clouds got away from you, right? Maybe they'd look better on a more yellow sky or a deeper blue sky. This is just going on your painted gradation, your sky layer, and then doing image adjustments, colored balance. And I did it on a duplicate, so I think that looks pretty good. So now I can just see, well, which one do I like better? And I'll just fade between them. All right, so this is going to be my final. So I save it first as my PSD file, of course. Carl, assignment 4, Cloud Creature, FA17. Its image size is large enough to print. It's 16 by 20 inches by 350 pixels per inch. So I can make this a huge poster, and it has the resolution to match. Right. Oh, there's some hard edges there. Let me get rid of those quick.
Wait, so you went to image adjustments?
Color balance, yep. But I did it on the gradated sky layer that I painted. How do you find the layer that is the background?
Like, how do you get to the gradient thing?
You go to Image, Adjustments, Color Balance.
Yeah.
Oops, and you'll get that. That's the wrong one, but Image Adjustments, Color Balance.
No, the bigger one.
I'll have to come and see what you're talking about. Oh, I was overdoing it. So the problem is if you get too focused in one little area, you can lose sight of the big picture. So this is a good project for remembering that too. All right, so once you've saved it as your Photoshop file, then we're going to save it simply as a JPEG. And that's going to be the only thing we upload. And if you have your creature turned on, it makes it really easy to see what you're going for. So file save as right now with all the layers, it's 1.2 gigabytes, so very large. But I'm going to save it as a JPEG and make sure it's to the desktop. Make sure it's fewer than 5 megabytes. And I'm able to do that through these image options and how we can compress it. This is something we'll be reviewing for our midterm, like what the reason is for these different file types. Yeah, just compressing it to even just a quality of 11, which is almost the highest, it gets 1.2 gigabytes down to just 4.6 megabytes. Pretty incredible. Very helpful. All right, then I can close the assignment. I'm done with that for a while. And I'm going to upload it to PhotoBucket using Chrome. It's right there. While I'm waiting for Chrome to load, going to the library, Digital Art 1, Assignments, and then Assignment 4. I'm going to load mine into instructor demonstrations. While I'm waiting for that, I can organize my class files. So if it hasn't, we've been moving pretty fast. So you want to make sure you have a folder for each of your assignments, that you label your PSD file with green or something so you can easily find it. You label the online files that you upload with orange or something that you can find. And we have all my reference images here. And to kind of clean up the first part of the folder, I'll always put those into a separate folder. And then I'll have the tutorial videos. All right, so there it is. How are you going to label it? With FA17, all capitals, and then just your first name. You don't need anything else. And that's it.